Hello everyone, Nathan here, and this is actually a topic that I actually kind of cover in a future episode of Ocarina of Time, but it's going to be quite a long time before that episode is released. Episode 1 of Ocarina of Time hasn't even aired yet. And that topic, as the title implies, is emulators and emulating games. I have a few thoughts on that, and I just kind of wanted to make a quick and dirty video about it because it's been on my mind. Because Mudahar over at Some Ordinary Gamers, who's on both YouTube and Odyssey now, by the way, recently made a video that was quite in depth about emulators and emulation, all that kind of stuff, and probably going much more in depth than I'll be doing. But basically, the overall message was that emulation is great because it's a way of preserving games for for the day that hardware like NES consoles, Super Nintendo consoles, but even some of the newer ones, the PlayStation 2s, PlayStation 3s, Xboxes, Xbox 360s, those are all eventually going to fail. Those systems will all eventually be bricks, and they'll do nothing. And wouldn't it be great if those games weren't lost to the sands of time? Hell, I mean, my Nintendo Switch, I love playing games on my Switch. That thing's going to be a brick someday. What's going to happen to all the games on that? And so basically, it's I'm not sure exactly what you'd call it. Not OCD, but it's when I first heard that approximately 90% of the film, like the physical film in the world, is now gone. It's deteriorated. I don't know. I found that a little upsetting. And I would find that, I find the prospect of that happening to the gaming world, something I'm very passionate about, I would find that to be very upsetting as well. I don't like the idea, because, they're like, especially depending on the game, they're like little pieces of history, Ocarina of Time, whether you liked it or not, that was a very important game historically, and there was all kinds of other games that were inspired from it. Like I heard that even Dark Souls was inspired of it, but going off on a bit of a tangent here. So basically, here's my personal stance on emulators and gaming and that kind of thing. I'm not really particularly interested in using it for the purposes of piracy. Like, I'm not really interested in downloading a bunch of ROMs of games that I've never owned before, that I've never played, because, I would mainly want to use it for, revisiting games that I've enjoyed in the past, or games that I have at one point owned. Like, for example, I have a bunch of Nintendo 64 games, or I should say I had. They're probably in a garage somewhere rotting away, completely non-functional anymore. So wouldn't it be great if I was to someday update my computer to be able to properly run those emulators? I can kind of do a Nintendo 64 one, but it's weird. It kind of freezes to some parts. Same with the GameCube emulator. So yeah, my personal view on it is that if you're using it for games that are no longer on the market, or for games that you can't go to a store and buy, or games that are from a company that no longer exists, like for example the game Eternal Darkness: Sanity's Requiem, though that company Silicon Knights is gone. It doesn't exist in any capacity anymore. So even if you went to like a used game store and you bought it, Silicon Knights isn't getting a slice of that money. They're not getting anything. So in my mind, it's ethically fine to emulate a game like that. I don't think there's any moral quandaries. You're not stealing any money from anybody. Similarly, I heard that Metroid Dread is already available on Switch emulators. That's already available. I think unless you own a copy of that game, I think it's just a shitty thing to do, to just straight up download that and play it on your PC. I mean, you have to have I'd imagine you'd probably have to have a pretty decent PC to be able to run something like that properly. But I mean, you can even run it beyond its original specs. You can go beyond 60 frames per second at 4K and all this other stuff. But I think doing that for free without buying a copy of the game, it would be a really shitty thing to do. So for me, I'm not looking at this as a way of pirating. I'm looking at it for archiving, preferably things that I already own. For example, I was just thinking about I made a short video, a clip from my old Mass Effect 2 playthrough, and then it kind of started bothering me. It was like, wait a minute, that game's got DLC. How would when that Xbox 360 is gone? How would I ever replay that? It's gone. It's toast. So like, how would I? So then it got me thinking. Geez, I would really, really like to be able to get a hold of a ROM that's got all the DLC for that. And I mean, I couldn't play it on my computer right now, but someday I'd like to upgrade my computer to be able to do that. So yeah, it's just something that's really been on my mind lately. And I would even, if possible, like to start doing like emulator backups of Switch games that I've got, because again, one day that system will be a brick. I would prefer that my gaming library on there doesn't get lost to the sands of time. Maybe I'd like to show my kids that game, some of those games 20 years from now that they would otherwise not be able to play. And I don't want to have to repurchase a bunch of games that I already have, especially in light, and this is kind of in a way a dual topic video. A lot of HD remakes, remakes of games, have proven really lazy recently. Just like, I think it was I can't remember if it was GTA 5 or it was one of the new GTA games. Was recently remastered, and there's a lot of complaints about it. Somebody posted a screenshot on Minds earlier today, and what they showed was it was like some kind of repair shop, and there's a lug nut on top of the building. It's like a giant lug nut thing, and in the remastered version, it's almost completely rounded because they just lazily applied some kind of filter to increase the poly count on most things in the game. And I mean, I think that's probably a fairly good starting point for a remaster, but it's probably important that you actually review the content first and make sure that you don't fuck it up like that. And so I'm seeing a lot of lazy remakes, and the fact that companies do that and expect you to pay full price, I mean, that kind of pisses me off. For example, KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic, is going to be having a remake, and I mean, it's a long way from release, but I've already resigned to the idea that game is going to be total shit. I wouldn't be surprised if they injected it with woke nonsense. I think it's probably likely that they're gonna promise you the moon, but then when you get to it, yeah, it's probably just gonna be the same game carbon copied with a poly counter increased on it to try and make it look better. I would, in which case, yeah, I would probably rather just buy the Steam version of it, or I've got hard copies of KOTOR 1 and 2 for the Xbox. I would rather run it on my Xbox or run it on an emulator, because an emulator, in some cases, depending on the specs of your PC, that is a better and more proper remastering. Like, again, in that Mutahar video, he showed that I think it was Silent Hill, the original Silent Hill running on an emulator with the resolution and frame rate jacked up looks better than the remake. And it's just like, man, emulation's looking real good. So yeah, let's see. I kind of want to leave off with a question. I think that's most of what I wanted to cover. So I can't ask for where to find more ROMs or where to find ROMs with DLC attached, like Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3. I'm not allowed to ask for that. Because it does breach some legalities there. And depending on what region of the world you're in, those legalities may increase or decrease. So I'm not going to ask for that. And I would even, so just big warning on there, big legal warning. You're not allowed to do that. Emulators are not illegal in any way, shape, or form, by the way, according to Mudahar. I'll just stick that in there just in case. But yeah, I think I found a... How much further do I want to elaborate on that? Anyway, it's just something that I'd really like to get further into and start doing backups of games that I really value. Now, here's a question I could leave with. I think my computer is an A12, so it's pretty old, but I think it's built in a way that's ready for upgrades. What would you guys recommend for upgrading my computer to be able to sort of run some of these emulators more properly? To be able to, run PS3 games or even run Switch games, because apparently some of those work now. I'm a complete noob when it comes to computer specs and computer parts. So yeah, if you have any advice in regards to that, I would be really appreciative of that. Sorry for the jump cut, but one quick amendment, quick little edit there. Another question I'd like to ask is, does anybody know of a way to extract downloaded games that you have on your Switch, like as a ROM, essentially, or how to do that on an Xbox or really any other consoles? And the reason why I'm wondering if anybody knows the answer to that is because it would save me the trouble. Of seeking out those ROMs. Again, the reason why I would want to do this is for archiving games that I already own. It would be for my own personal usage. I would not be distributing it. But that's the end of this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.